What I wanted to talk about today is to allude to, first of all, the significance of Vision 2030 in the fact that it has an economical, sustainable element to it, and it can be achieved through the integration of artificial intelligence to provide securities for climate change, renewable energies. It is a really well-documented roadmap for Saudi Arabia, and it has excelled the kingdom. And we notice it just over the last couple of days, the fact that the Saudi Riyal has a new image now that is going to be integrated into all computers and all e-currencies, makes it a reality in terms of what the vision has to offer and why the importance of setting up a research hub to achieve the vision and think beyond the vision. And to achieve this, I want to focus the research predominantly around the interdisciplinary elements of sustainability. Now, for all of us, we all know sustainability is a comprehensive framework to meet today's needs without compromising future generations' ability to meet these needs. We already know that here, but what sustainability actually breaks down to, from the 8 Millennium Goals to the 17 SDG goals and the 170 Accords, is the fact that it focuses around the profit, the people, the planet, the prosperity, the partnerships, and they are the key elements here. And when you start looking at all these elements here, profit is all about the economical cycles and how it goes around. People is about the social elements between food, alleviation of hunger, and security and health, to then looking at the prosperity in terms of the technological advancement, whether it's green buildings or green initiatives or reducing carbons or climate change, to address these elements. And partnership is what we're trying to establish through this network here. And this leads us into more of an objective of establishing a robust research to collaborate between Saudi universities in general and match that collaboration with industrial-led data to then help generate a well-informed systems that can trickle down into policies for a long-term establishment and benefit of the region in general and Saudi Arabia specifically. So we've been talking about SDGs universities and specifically the King Saud KSA Universities, the initiative that we're trying to establish here. And the reason why most universities should join this element is, first of all, from a Saudi perspective, it's the alignment to the 2030 targets, the vision, and setting up the roadmaps to achieve it. And if we start today in terms of setting up a research center and a hub for it here, we can then integrate into a PhD framework, into a comprehensive research element, into a training development element, to then position Saudi Arabia to lead these elements here. And this puts the universities in alignment with then rankings in terms of publications, in terms of leading research, in terms of bespoke research specifically to the region and specifically to Saudi Arabia. Because although we do research significantly, if the research is not focused on a point area and data is not available from that point area, i.e. Saudi Arabia, it's going to be hard to then implement a generic framework into a specific framework, delaying the time of applications here. And that brings us into tackling the national issues, understanding the water requirements, the economic requirements, the development requirements, the tourist requirements, the advancement in e-commerce and e-currencies and other things like that, and how can data and AI and machine learning enhance these elements while maintaining the sustainability, addressing the carbon footprinting, and addressing all these elements here. So the vision from what we're trying to do with these integrations here is to strengthen the collaborations. As academics, we already integrate, we already collaborate. I've got several projects with King Khalid University. I've got a few projects with Eneza College at the moment in terms of developing capacities and in terms of training people. But bringing specific research elements will enhance the systems even further. And that brings us into a global partnership. Many heads will actually integrate into better solutions, and looking at things from different perspectives will help us engage with the systems in a better designed manner to achieve visions and look beyond the vision to what comes after here. So what we're hoping to do is unlock, first of all, funding opportunities, because as we all know, universities are governed by three pillars: income from research and student numbers, and the spaces that we have. The spaces that we have control the numbers that we can attract, and the numbers that we can attract can enable us then to do the research and generate the funding that we require for the research. So having a group of Saudi universities integrating with global universities will help advance the sustainability systems applications and help unlock external funding beyond what is available in Saudi Arabia by looking at the Horizon 2020 or the IMF and other funding organizations here. And then that will enable us to enhance the research capability and develop an innovative system that is focused on the technology, focused around sustainability, focused around the climate resistance, and help build a better system that can be applied locally based on the data and the integration with the stakeholders, such as the companies or the policymakers in Saudi, but also within a global community, because we are governed by the UN frameworks, we're governed by Paris climate change or the Kyoto Summit and other things like that. So our research should meet the targets and exceed the targets that are set up by these organizations here. And to look at it from a multifaceted point of view or a multidisciplinary point of view enables us to come up with technologies that will enhance the economical benefits, the environmental impacts, and beyond that, help design policies that will help cater and apply the sustainability in a better manner here. And as I said, in universities, it's all about the exchange of the knowledge. Our jobs predominantly is to educate the new cohorts of people coming in, the new generation, but also it's about expanding the body of knowledge to further enhance the systems here. And the last element is about focusing on the undergraduates, focusing on the new talents coming in, fostering these professional networks so the students can actually develop a resilience in terms of understanding what sustainability is, how can they apply the sustainabilities, and how can they enhance locally and be contributed to be global partners in all endeavors that they do here. So in terms of the research framework, I've put it down in terms of a development, optimization, enhancement, strength, and fostering pillars. First of all, we want to develop an integrated systems thinking, and that comes in for capability of understanding what sustainability is, looking at the SDGs, looking at the 5 Ps, pillars of sustainability. How can data-driven information and artificial intelligence and machine learning enable us to look beyond the easy sites and then data mine for the more intricate possibilities and solutions here to create securities. And then we apply the decision-making rules for our systems that we design here to actually not compromise, but to actually align between economical benefits, environmental benefits, social benefits, and establish what is a feasible option for the short term, the long term, and the medium term. And that helps us then to optimize the systems in terms of the resources that we have and in terms of the water systems, the food systems, the health systems, the energy systems, and apply a more efficient applied system to this, to what we're trying to do here. And enhance then the climate resilience by looking at the policies as a driving factor for the technology implementation. But the technology implementation is a driving factor for better policies to serve societies in a technological manner here. Strengthening the securities in terms of food, water, health, alleviating poverties, meeting the SDGs in terms of smart buildings, green buildings, smart grids, electrical resources, and so on here. And this comes from an academic source where we are the custodial of knowledge. We expand the boundaries of knowledge, but in God we trust, but we must bring the data, and the data comes from the industrial collaborations and the partnerships that we have here. So we want to develop and foster that relationship. So our research is data-driven from a smart point of view to help enhance the policies and the economical drivers across the systems here. And that takes us into a framework of what the themes of the climate resilience systems that we're trying, or the hub that we're trying to establish here. It's a multidisciplinary research hub that focuses on the environmental science, the engineering, the economics, the policies, different engineering disciplines, and break it down to a different or a subsectional themes. So the first theme is to look at the climate change and environment sustainability. Next one is to look at environment, water, food, resources, energies, and so on. The other one is to look at technologies, particularly in terms of the energy requirements and the alternative energy pathways and the alternative energy mix that we can have here by aligning things such as distributed systems rather than centralized systems, looking at the localized resources in terms of sun or water and applying that to the energy systems. So we move away from a one resource system to a multi-resource systems, and how we can then integrate an infrastructure to carry that systems across. And later on in theme 4, we look at the multi-criteria decision making, because at the end of the day, if sustainability is about the 4 pillars, but different pillars have different impacts on society, we want to use the artificial intelligence and the advanced data analytics in terms of machine learning or data mining to look at how we can then categorize and prioritize the different elements between the technologies, the securities, the climate requirements, the environment, and so on, to then help come up with the informed decision that will serve an easy implementation today, but a long future associated with it to meet the sustainable fundamentals that we have here. And within that, we want to focus on the SDGs in general, but focus on the SDGs in terms of the first 4, where we want to eradicate poverties, have some food securities, have some national securities, build up a health system that can adapt to the changes and the global challenges and the advancement in diseases that are happening, such as the COVID that we've experienced a few years ago here. And through all of this, we want to use the top of science available to us here for sustainable development by applying these managerial tools and these mathematical tools and these computational tools to help understand how we can do them. So if we take each one of the themes and break it down to subcategories, we can look at how we can do that here. So for theme 1, where it's climate change and environmental sustainability, we can look at strategies, first of all, in terms of what we're trying to do with carbon emissions, addressing the carbon footprinting, and how we can move away from or develop a transitional pathway to low carbon technology, leading to a zero carbon emission element here, which will enable us to develop a climate resilient planning structure for new cities or existing cities to be optimized in a better manner, to help integrate an infrastructure that will take us into the sites of distributed energies or renewable energies and so on, enable us to address all the carbon footprinting issues and move away from carbon-based technologies to other technologies that will enable us to sustain a way of life. And to sustain a way of life, we need to think about water management, water refineries, and so on across the region here. And I think one of my colleagues here in the speech today alluded to the Saudi Arabia having one of the advanced systems in terms of desalinations and water treatments that we should focus on, which takes us into theme 2. We want to address the nexus of things between the environment, the energy, and the water systems, and how can that be improved across different elements. We want to move away from a linear principles in economy and resource management to more a circularity element in terms of looking at what we do, how we generate the waste from it. Can we minimize the waste? Can the waste be recycled back into raw materials? Can we reduce the energy demands? Can we use the water demands around the systems? Help bring in more demand side management and supply side management to address how we can improve the grids, the connectivity, and move on with the systems to optimize the energy uses. And this all comes from an integration between academia and the industrial partners, and the current data that we have and the projected data that we can generate for or extrapolate or forecast from the current data using the advanced machine learning element to help build these robust systems here. And then later on, we can start looking around the renewable energy systems, look at the technology specifically. What are the available resources? What are the local resources that we can optimize? What is the best mix to use these energy resources here? Is there a current infrastructure for the resources to be adapted into mainstream economy? Or if not, what are the costs and what are the policies to then help us implement a successful pathway to a new framework for energy carriers and energy supply across the systems here? Moving on, well, obviously all the research has to address the elements for developing a policy that will enable us to catalyze or speed the implementations of the technologies, alleviate the restrictions that we have in our societies, and enhance the quality of life. And this all comes through a multi-criteria decision-making exercise. We want to look at different frameworks like AHPE or PNPE, and then start looking at how we can balance between the different categories or the 5 Ps that I've established earlier on to help upscale the local market for green jobs in the future, to look at the policies, look at the emissions, and address how we can align all of these together here. And that takes us into some of the elements in terms of the food, the security, the health issues, and how can that be enhanced through the systems and the technologies that we have for a better elements. I mean, one of the projects that we're working on at the moment is looking at how we can adapt drones for agricultural purposes to look at GIS or geographical information systems and remote systems. We look at soil analysis through microrobotics, and then understand how each plant within a cultivated hectare of land can develop, analyzing all the soil requirements to optimize the yield of the growth from it here, create the right environments for it, which means maximize the yield, generating food securities and revenues from the food elements here, while minimizing the water consumption and the water footprinting that we have, while maintaining that yield requirements from it here, and with more organic-based food products that we have here, we can enhance the healthcare through the training of people to develop more resilience towards understanding what food requirements and food security will lead to better health and better societies here. And all of this can be aligned with a technical, data-driven, AI predicted systems. And as I said earlier on, in God we trust, but all others must bring data. The fact that we are a data civilization nowadays, and we deal with a lot of data, cybersecurities, and other elements in terms of infrastructure securities and disaster securities, and alleviating any other issues that could come from the AI issues should be addressed here to help meet the sustainable needs for the system. So if these are the themes that we want to address here, how are we going to implement the collaboration? And the collaboration comes from, first of all, looking at the Saudi universities across the board here, and we already deal with several Saudi universities here, to be the main focus to generate or help their staff to develop, as well as help generate more research, more impactful research, and most of all, lead the ranking elements here. And if we set up the systems in a successful manner to lead a group of PhD students here, based on data-driven, will enable the industry to have more faith in what the outputs of the academia is, rather than just an employability pipeline, to more of a technological advancement element that enables them to apply new technologies and help the policymakers to build the better policies here. And this is all addressed in terms of a national and an international networking elements here. And the whole element around how we implement this hub or this strategy comes from establishing a robust PhD program, generate some funding for it here. And if we can able to generate the funds between now and September to start a partnership between different universities, depending on the different PhDs that we have, we can then establish a framework between September 25 and September 28 or January 29 to develop the 10 20 different projects that will enable to address how we can then bring a sustainable systems here, given us some time to help trickle it down into a policy and a new framework and a new system to enhance for the next stage after the Vision 2030 here. And this comes through the establishment of a research sustainable center for Saudi universities in general, where they're all partners into it in collaboration with us through the KSA University Hub and my university, for instance, or Dr. Allam's university here as host, to help integrate that international link to then help develop these elements here. And a big part of what this strategy is all about is not just disseminating the work and making sure the policies are implemented and addressing the multi-criteria elements of things, but also the capacity developments in terms of integrating with the government bodies, the industrial bodies, to develop bespoke courses, as well as annual forums where different members of these groups and universities will start disseminating the research findings and help start catalyzing Saudi towards the sustainable future that it hopes to achieve here. In terms of the expected outputs from a hub like the climate change hub that we're trying to set up here is, first of all, look at the advancement on the policies and set up a sustainable development research-driven policy recommendation to put sustainability at the center of all policies here. And sustainability then breaks down into the 5 Ps in terms of the profit, the people, the planet, and the partnerships, and so on here, and help drive a technologically robust innovation systems that is driven by the advancement in machine learning, in climate resilience, in using optimized resources and other things like that here, which will yield then economical benefits as well as environmental benefits, and they will yield then an improvement in health, in society, in education, alleviate quality of standard of people, and so on, and then enable us Saudi universities to catalyze themselves as a global recognized research hub focused around sustainability in a multifaceted, multidisciplinary direction here. Now, Dr. Alam put me as a front for one of the hubs, but he has many partners, and I'm just bringing what most of my colleagues in the different hubs through the World Association of Sustainable Development can offer. Most of us are experts in our fields with many years of research behind us here. I've alluded to several projects that I'm working on in terms of carbon footprinting and how they align in terms of policymakers and how they align or will enable Saudi to then catalyze themselves here. I have an extensive network in terms of the Institute of Engineering Technology, the Engineering Council, Chartered Management Institute, and so on, that we can derive it here. As I said, I've worked on different projects across the systems. I've mentored several PhD students. I've published the best 2 books, 11 chapters, the best part of 110 articles so far. So I can bring an extensive network of knowledge with us here. And in terms of collaborations, I put admin@was.org.uk as the main email for you to contact to move forward. But I also put my email there if you want to discuss certain elements forward before we take it to the WAS committee for it here. And in terms of the collaboration, what we want to do is set up a Saudi university-led initiatives here with partnerships with universities in the UK as an example, to then enable capacity development within the country, provide industrial and government bespoke courses, joint publications, joint conferences, applied for international and national funding, but most of all, enhance the research capability and the outputs of research in a multidisciplinary matter for the development of the Saudi systems here. So in terms of the next step, what we want to do is align the research hub around the 2030 vision, but focused around the sustainability initiatives here, start generating some funds so we can look at maybe the 20 PhD students joined through this hub with the Saudi universities led employees, with data driven from the industries and different academic stakeholders, so we can look and address the local issues and what is required there, not just to meet the 2030 vision, but beyond the 2030 vision here. And I'm sure this center, if established in a right manner with the right framework for sustainability, it will help us engage with governments, with industries, with other initiatives here, achieve the targets and go beyond the targets here. And then we can look at how we can disseminate the work and establish a framework that will put the Saudi universities at the center of advancement in research and be world leaders. At this point here, I'll leave the floor back to Dr. Alam to carry on with his presentations. But I said admin.was.org.uk will be the center for communication in terms of what we can establish with the hub. But if you want to discuss things with me, my email is also up there. I'll pass it back to you, Dr. Alam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed.